So when I come here and I say x is equal to add, immediately Python sees this add here, it will go look for the function, perform the task inside that function, and it will try to equate the result to x. Okay, but now let me now show you something that's happening here. So let me say add. Okay, let me not put anything inside the bracket. Remember, if I don't pass anything inside here, since I said a equals 0 and b equals 0, automatically it will pass in 0 here. So let me just do maybe 2 and maybe 2 and 1. So automatically it will pass in 2 and 1 into this place when I call this function. If I come here and say print x, well, you will be expecting, what you'll probably be expecting is for you to see 2 plus 1, right? But look, let's see what will happen. Okay, it printed none, it printed 3, and it printed none. So this 3 that it's printed here is because of we had a print statement inside this place. Okay, and the reason is, so in fact, so let me now show you something. Let me remove this print. Let me just say, or let me just explain it, and then I'll remove the print. So what happened? Remember, I told you that anytime immediately Python sees this, it will run this function. Sorry. Yeah. So I remember I told you immediately Python sees the name of a function, it will look for that function and run it. So what happened there is, when I said x equal to add, Python looked for add, ran add, and when it ran add, what happened? Inside add, what is here is print a plus b. So that's why you have 3 here. Okay. But now when we now say print x, remember x is supposed to be equal to add. X is supposed to still print out 3 again, but it printed out none. What this none means is that, remember I told you there are 2 types of function when I started. Functions that return a value and functions that do not return any value. What this none means is that this function actually doesn't return any value. All it does is print out a plus b. So usually that's not an ideal way of using a function, because it's not every time in fact most functions you write will not be printing out anything. They will just do calculations and return a value. So now, to make this function to return a value, so let me remove this. If I remove this print statement here now, so it's going to throw, I don't know, my laptop usually hangs a bit sometimes. It's not supposed to do that. Yeah, I think it's the video recording app I'm using. So now let me remove the print statement and show you guys what happens. So now if I run the same statement again, you find out nothing is going to print only none. The reason it's printing none is because this function doesn't return any value, so there is no return, nothing is going back. So now watch what will happen when I say return a plus b. So Python is going to do something now. When Python runs, when I call add here and Python looks for it, it finds add, there are already default values here to add, so it will always add the default values. Okay, and then it says return a plus b. So what is going to happen is Python, this function now is returning a result. So after this function has run, the result of a plus b will be stored inside the function. Okay, so watch. Remember, if I say return a plus b, it means do a plus b and return it as a result for this. So this function will now have a result that it is producing, that is pushing out of itself, which is the result of a plus b. So if I now run my statement again, watch what will happen. You see, when I say print x, remember I'm no more printing, and I'm not doing any print inside the function again. I'm printing x now. X is what? Add. So let me try and print add. Let me see what will happen. If I print add, let me see what to say. Function add. Okay, that's not what I want to see though. So print x. Right. So what happened now is that when I said x equal add, Python saw this add here. It looked for the function, ran it, and then this function is returning a value of a plus b. That value will be assigned to x, and when I print x, I have that value within the our x variable. So that's the difference, okay, between a function that returns a value and a function that doesn't return a value. And most functions that you write in Python will be returning values a lot. So it's good. So usually in the last class, someone was asking, how do you know where a function ended? Not all the time, but usually you can see a function end with this result return. So after it has performed all the mass, whatever, blah 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 you want to do inside here, you just say return this, and then you can use that value anywhere you want in your code. Okay, so that's it for the two different types of functions: functions that return a value and functions that do not return a value. I don't know if there are any questions since we don't have a lot of people in the class today, so feel free to unmute your mic, ask questions. If you, I would answer them. If there's anything you don't understand, the same thing, just let me know and I'll go over it again.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't know, this return, I often get confused with it, even in JavaScript. So I still don't, like, what is the difference between this return and print? Like, what relationship do they have together?
Okay, so now let me explain that a bit more now. So the difference between return and print is that, so there's actually something called, I didn't want to start going into a lot of vocabulary so it doesn't confuse you guys. So what return does, okay, let me look for, let me try and look for a very practical human based example now, like real life example for what return is. um Print, the difference between print and return. Okay, while I think of a good example for that, let me try and explain it, continue explaining. So now, okay, so the difference between print, okay, print A plus B, the difference between print A plus B and return A plus B is that when you print A plus B, you are not storing it anyway. So okay, that's a very nice yes, that's actually a very nice example. Sef, someone is trying to join, I think. Someone trying to join. Okay, no. So let's go back to my ID. Okay. So the difference between the print and the return is that for the print, you are not storing, you are not doing any storage. You are basically just outputting the value to the console. But the return, you are storing it inside your function. So the function now has a value that it can store. So you can now play with that function. You maybe the reason you might not understand it because of the use cases as have still not opened themselves to you. So you still feel like print can still do the same job, like you saw it and it worked in a way with print. So why are we using return? So the thing is, a time will come when your function is storing a value that you need to perform an action. So you don't just want to, you don't even want to print it out sef. What if your function is a, let me say, okay, let me say yes, let's look at it like this. Let's say, in fact, it would be nice if we can build that stuff now. Like, I just had a very nice idea. So let's say your function is a password generator. Okay, so you have a function for generating passwords now, and after generating the password, you want to, after the function has generated the password, how do you get the password out of the function to use it in your code? That's the question now. Using print cannot work because print will just send that password to the console for the user to see. But if you want to use that password you have generated with your function, you know the way Google automatically generates passwords for you. So say you want to generate a password of random numbers and letters, that kind of stuff. After your function has generated that password, what does it do with it? It needs to return it to somewhere. Like, it needs to store that password so that you can use it later when you want. So that's basically why you use return and not print in your functions. When you want to store, when your function is doing an active storage of a value that you want to use later in your code. I hope that was able to. I hope that we're able to clarify the difference between the print and the return.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Hello.
Yeah.
Please, I'm not seeing your screen. Can you share your screen? I'm not seeing your screen.
Is anybody Adams? Were you able to see my screen?
Yeah, sure, I can. I can still see it like this.
Okay, it means Clinton is not from me. Oh, it's not from me. Probably check the tabs on your. Are you using a phone? It's like you're using a mobile phone.
No, I'm using a laptop, and I'm
You know
actually using a
that
phone and I can still see the screen.
I'm using a laptop, so it's showing me Richard, Trusty, myself, and Adam. So, but I'm not seeing the screen very well. It's partitioned into different sections.
Try zooming in and zooming out. Maybe to show up. Okay. So yes. Trusty, welcome. Let's continue. Ah. Okay, you just left. So okay. Continuing. Where were we? Where we were. So yes, I think I've explained the difference between a return and a print. Now I think that's clear. So that was a nice question, sir. Because I had the same issue. It was like I was like, why we using return you can just print? So it's a nice thing that you brought up. Okay, so moving now, we need to now look at. I think that password. I think that is even a good assignment to even give you guys like password generator self. Like start writing algorithms. Use like random, import random. Should we? Let me try. Let me try. I might not. Let me try import random. Then so if you want to use random now, should we start building it? Should we build it? So, guys, do you think we should build the password generator and use a function on it?
Hold on. What is this import random is for?
Okay, so
I
in the last class, I kind of showed you guys a way of importing modules. So this random is a module in Python that is it actually has a function inside it that can generate random numbers for you. But I think it's not yet time we start going into modules and all those stuff. So it's just for that password. It's a nice function to have a password generator and all that kind of thing. But it's okay. We'll still you guys will still learn how to be able to do those kind of things by yourself. Let me not stay off course too much. So now after this, the next thing we need to look at is I want to show you an example whereby a function can call another function. Okay, in fact a function can even call itself. But you when you start doing some massive some very intensive task where you need your function to call itself after it has run so that you know so we can I think we can use that way to even create a loop whereby the function will run, it will call itself, it will run again, call itself, run again, that kind of stuff. But let me just show you. For example, let me create a function that's maybe to sing a song, a function that sings, for example. So let me say I'll say def, and then maybe the name of the function is song. Right? So now inside this function, so for this particular function, we don't need it to return anything. So you will now start seeing the difference that some functions don't need to return anything because they're not performing any calculation. They are just simply outputting a particular value or any or something. They are not returning. So some functions don't need to return. So it's not a must. So for this one, we are going to be using simple print statements. Um, Even though we can use return, but to just make things seem as simple as possible, we use simple print statements here. So this def song, um, before we create the song, let's create the lyrics. So for now, since I don't want to write anything here, I can just say pass. So when you say pass in Python will be like, okay, you're not yet ready to put anything inside here, so I'll just ignore it. So we are going to just indent it. Let me go down and continue. So every song has lyrics inside it. So let me create a function to handle the lyrics. So I'll create a def and I'll say how do you spell lyrics? Lyrics, okay. And now I would so lyrics of a song, so it's just basically printing let me just see, what song now? What song has a very simple lyric? Uh, which lyric? My favorite song, Ed Sheeran. Okay, Go Away Girl. Um, okay, fell in love with an Englishman. How to spell English? Yeah. See, you guys will mind my spelling. I'm not very English is not really my strong point. fell in love with an Englishman. This Galway girl from Australia. This is just a something, something, something. So, that's basically what it prints. And now, guess what? Inside this song, I can call my lyrics here, okay, and I can call it as many times as possible. So I can say lyrics, lyrics, lyrics. Actually, I'll just say it twice. So what will happen now is if I now call song, if I call song, so if I call song, if I run it, guess what will happen? Yeah, it will I called song, and then what happened? Song called lyrics. So I can even create another function that when a song calls lyrics, lyrics will call another function. So that's the kind of the sweet part about functions. With functions you can make your code dynamic, so you can make your code jump from place to place. So yeah, that's the sweet part. With functions gives you power in a way to manipulate code very well. So um now we'll be attempting a few problems, like some very simple problems, so that we can get familiar with, because I said today's class will not be, it's not supposed to be too long. So maybe one problem, and then I think that's it for now. I would I would also like to brush over the while loop and the for loop today again, because I know that some of us are not around this and it's good. So those are very very important factors or important topics in Python. So okay, so let's do a for loop. Let's do a for loop here. So just show you an example, one example of the for while, explain it, and then we move. So for a for loop, I explained a for loop yesterday, but let me explain it again. A for loop is basically an iteration or a loop for iterating over a set of values. So the reason it's called a for loop is because you want it to run for a certain amount of time or a certain number of time. You want the loop to repeat itself for a certain number of time, and you need to give it a condition for that repetition. So that's how a for loop works. So now we say for, now we need to, so I will still explain this. We need to have a variable for storing the number of times the loop has iterated over, or number of items it has cycled through, one of those things. So that's what this value here, it can be anything actually. It can be I, but usually in Python you see it as I. For I in range, I'll also talk about this range function. Let me say range, range, let me just say range 10. Now I want to call song. So call song. So let me explain what happens here. Now, um, what's going to happen here is, let me run it and then I'll show you so you understand a bit better. Okay, let me bring this up. So yeah, so it ran about 9 times. So, but since it's twice, you see like almost 18 pieces of stuff. So well, that's so now let me explain. Let me explain properly. So we said for I in range 10 song. So this, let's start with the range function. Range function, what it does is that it generates a list of numbers from 0 to the last. So if you say range 10, it will do 0 to 9. If you say range 11, it will do 0 to 10. You get? So that's basically what the range does. It generates a list of numbers from 0 to the number before whatever you specified. Okay? Now, um what's the function of the I here? So remember, this I can be anything. It can be for numbers, it can be anything actually you want. Numbers, for numbers in range 10, for anything, but usually conventionally Python programmers use I, or either you're using I or you're using a very very specified or well detailed variable name that is easy to understand. So now what you to do is, remember this range generating a list of numbers from 0 to the number before whatever you specified in it. So what I will now do is, for each number, okay, for each number, Python is going to go through that list. It's going to cycle through. So in programming, it's called iteration. Python will iterate through that list, and each time it iterates, for each number, it will store the position or the number it is inside I. So for example, let me make this a bit more straightforward. So instead of writing song, let me print I, so you will see what is happening. So now if I print I, guess what? So what we are seeing here. seeing it 1 to 9, 1 to 9. So what happens is, remember this range generates a number from 1 to 9. Okay, so what's going to be when when for I in range, when range is 1, or when range is 0, sorry, I, it will store it inside, it will store that 0 inside this I, and then it will print out I, and that's why you see the first thing.
Okay, it's 9. No?
Yeah, hello.
Okay, 0 to 9.
Is
Okay.
Yeah,
I understand.
so when I is 0, when the range, we know this range has generated a number from 0 to 9, so the first number it generates is 0. So it will be like, for 0 in range 0 to 9, print 0, because it will store that 0 here. Then the next time it's coming over, instead of going, it will go to the next value. The next value is 1. It will store that value inside I and print out I. The next time it comes again, the next value is 2. It will store the 2 inside I and print out like that until it gets to, because the number that this range, it will stop at 9, and that's why you see 9 as the last number here. So it will take that 9, store it inside I. It's very important that you understand that any item that you are specifying here will be stored inside I. You need to understand that, and then that's I you are printing out. Okay, so that's
okay.
very,
I have a question.
yes.
Okay, the count, is it that it's counting from 0? Because normally normally I don't know, we are not conversant with programming.
Okay.
The way we know is
Okay,
start
so
from 1, 2, 3,
yes,
4,
yes,
5.
it's supposed
So why
to.
is it starting from 0? Is it that
So
it's because there's something I read about arrays, that arrays normally count from 0,
yes,
1,
2.
2.
So let me
So
explain
those
it.
are the two things I want to
So let me explain what is happening here. So when this range function, it generates, the range function actually doesn't care the value of the number is generating. What it cares about is the number of numbers. Let me not say number. But let me say, let me call it elements now. So in this range, what this range is going to do, this range is only concerned with, I will generate 10 different distinct elements. Okay, that's range's problem. Range doesn't really care. In fact, let me show you something. Before I show you something, let me just finish the explanation. So the range function doesn't really care whether the numbers are sequential, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It really doesn't care. The only thing the range is concerned with is that the amount of elements it will generate, the amount of stuff it will generate. If you count it, it will give you, it is 10 distinct stuff. So let's start. 0 is, if you count from 0 to 9, it's actually 10 elements. Like if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's 10 in number. You get. So that's what the range is concerned with. In fact, so now to show you that that's actually, the range doesn't really care whether the numbers are sequential, even though they will be sequential when it does it. If I put 10,2 here, guess what will happen? It's supposed to do with 10,2, let me say, comma 4. I'm supposed to be able to use the range to jump one number. It's supposed to be able to jump a number, except if it's not range that I'm using. Process finished. Let me see why. Let me try. Say from 5. So what happened? 10, then jump 2. It should work. Still didn't show anything. Things are in range 5, 10, jump 2. Let me take 5 to 2. I must have missed out something. What am I forgetting? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's supposed to work now. Jump 2. 5, 7, 9. Yes, sorry. So that's my bad. I was missing out the way it works. Okay. Let me now. It's supposed to work now. It's supposed to do 2, 4. Mistake. Okay. Let me specify 0. 0 to 10. Okay. So yeah, 2, 4, 6, 8. That's what I was trying to show you. So this range value, this range function, It actually takes more than one argument. If you don't specify the other arguments, nothing will happen. So the first argument is usually the starting point. Okay, the one in the middle is the end, where you want it to end, and this one here is how many numbers you want it to jump. So if you see, it started with 0, jumped to 2, 4, 6, 8. It didn't reach 10, because if you went further it will reach 10. So range doesn't, so it will always stop at the number before this 10th value. So let me, so not to confuse you or anything, so remember I told you about keyword arguments, whereby in a function, if you don't specify, if you, for example, when you are creating your own personal functions, when you say, if you don't specify arguments, it will automatically decide those things for you. So that's basically what happened there. When we said in range 10, we are basically saying every other thing is 0, so nothing else matters, so just do only 0, do 0 to 10 and we are good. So yeah, that's basically how the range works. I don't know if I was able to answer your question, but pretty much that's what I got. That's what I have. So can you ask your question again, please? Let me be sure that I was able to kill it. Hello? Clinton.
Yes, I'm here, I'm here.
Yeah, so please your question again, so that I want to be sure I was able to dissect it properly.
My question is, I was asking if,
Why does it
I
count
think
from
I've,
0
I've
to
clarified. Yes. So arrays generally start counting from 0.
yes? So arrays are
That's
they are concerned with the number of elements and not the value of the elements. So if you tell an array to print out 10 elements for you, it will start from 0, because 0 to 9 is 10. You get?
okay.
So that's why.
Okay. Thank you. I'm clear.
Okay. So yes, this is how a for loop works. I think I was able to explain a for loop for you. The next thing we need to look at is the while loop, and yeah, I will call it. We won't call it a day. We still have like 20 something minutes, and that's it. So the next thing now is the while loop. So just going over these things again. So the while loop is something like this. Say while, and you can specify a condition just the same way the if works. While a is less than 5, all those kind of stuff, it works. While a is less than any condition can enter here, but for now the condition that we are concerned with is this while true condition. So while shift t, while true. And yes, when we run while true like this, what it means is so what it means is, like, while true is like I said yesterday, you are driving your car. Python is like a car. It's driving, it's checking all these lines, it's coming, it's checking all these lines. So once it sees while true is like, imagine you are driving a car and the traffic light, you are coming towards the traffic light and you look at it and it's green. It means you don't need to stop. You need to just keep going. So that's what happens here. Once it sees a while true loop, what it means is run whatever is inside here, and then after you have run it, come back out. And since this condition is going to be constantly met, it's like a roundabout, basically. It's like a roundabout. So when it sees this while true, it runs this. When it finishes running this, it comes out again. It's while true, so it will keep running whatever is inside here forever. That's why it's called a loop, a while true loop. Okay. So if I run this thing, I hope it doesn't do something bad to my laptop. So I will need to stop running, pause this thing, because if it keeps running, it can fool my register, and even though it will take a while because this laptop is a bit advanced, unlike before, your laptop will shut down. So I will pause it now, so it doesn't mess my stuff up. So yeah, that's the way the while true works. Anything you put here will run forever, basically. So now we want to do a simple. What else have we not touched? Function calling other functions. So a very straightforward, simple project. And we can use functions to perform. Let me see. Can we use rand int, generate a list of integers, store it in a list? We've not yet done lists and dictionary, so I cannot go there. Okay, so what can we do with this thing? Functions. Does anybody have any ideas of a simple system that we can use functions to build?
We can build, let's say, a leap year calculator.
Leap year calculator. Okay. How do you know a leap year? I think if a year is divisible by 100,
Okay.
Shebi,
I can. You say?
how do you know a leap year?
Okay. The first condition is if the number is divisible by 4,
I've
it
solved
is a leap year.
I've solved this question on
If it
HackerRank
is
before.
if it is divisible by
100, 4 and
100
100.
and 400, it is a leap year. But if it is divisible by 4 and just 100, it is not a leap year.
Okay, so you'll be my guide as I'm writing this code. Okay, so
You
normal.
can actually
Or
use
you can use the feed bug.
I can use what?
There's a website I can recommend for you. Let me check it.
Is it HackerRank? I've solved this thing before actually.
It's not HackerRank.
Actually, you can use the feedbug function. The feedbug to select if one is fees and the other one is not fees, then if both are feedbug, let it be true, something like that. I think I've solved an algorithm like that on HackerRank.
HackerRank, right. So people are even solving algorithms on HackerRank. So our bosses. Okay, let's do the leap year guy now. Fizzbuzz. I think Fizzbuzz is where is it going to ask you for an input or something, and I've forgotten the way the algorithm goes. That's why I cannot. So, okay, so let's do the leap year guy.
For
So,
an input. Feedbug will ask you for an input.
right. So what's the required input and what's the output? Because those are the things we need if you are going to work with it, if you are going to build it.
Let me.
Or should we do the leap year? Hello? So we don't
Leap
have.
year is fine also.
Okay, so who was suggesting the leap year thing? I have bring the conditions now. So we know that for a year to be a leap year, if it means this function is going to be taking in an argument.
Okay, let me read it out. I've seen this thing here.
Okay.
How to know if it's a leap year. Leap years are any years that can exactly be divided by 4.
Okay, so if
I
this
think I
year,
said that earlier.
so if year is divisible by 4, right?
Yes.
So I'll say if year is divisible by 4, which means if year
Yes.
is
And I said except if it can be exactly divided by 100, then it isn't a leap year.
okay, so if it is divisible by 4, is a
That
leap.
means it can be divisible by 4 and 100. Once it's divisible by 4 and 100, it is not a leap year.
It's not a
I
leap
get it.
year.
But if it is just 4,
Yeah, it's a leap year.
it is a leap year.
Okay,
But
so
if it is
4
divisible
and
by
100
4
and
and
100
100, it
is
is
not.
not.
Okay.
And again, that said, except if it can be exactly divided by 400.
Okay. Okay, so we have
At
like
least-
3 conditions. So condition 1, if the year is divisible by 4, which means if you divide the year by 4, if you like this modulo operator, we know what it returns now. It returns the remainder. So if the year modulo 4 is
Yes.
equal to 0, so if you divide the year by 4 and the remainder is 0, it means
Yes.
divide then check. It means it's supposed to be. So we are going to say it means this our code will be outputting. So year is taking an input of year, and we are going to create a variable here called true, right? So we create a variable called leap here, and we equate it to what? We say leap is equal to, for now, before we start, leap is false because it's not a leap year. So leap is false when we start the code. Now, if the year is divisible by 4, it's supposed to be a leap year. So we say leap becomes what? True, right? So leap equals, we assign a value to it which is true. Okay, but now you said if you divide it by 4 and divide it by 100, right? So if after dividing it by 4, you divide it by 100. So if the year divides by 100 and returns 0, so year modulo 100 returns 0, what is going to be your answer? If the answer is equal to 0, so let me just say here. Sorry, back here. So if the answer is equals 0, it means what? The leap year is not, it's not a leap year anymore, so it's false now, right? So it means it's not a leap year anymore. So leap equals what? False. So what's the last condition? The last condition is on its own. So if none of these ones are met, so if you divide it by 4, and if y is divisible, so if y is divisible by, I think we said 400, so the y divide 400 and it gives you 0 again, so it means that it's purely a leap year on its own. So purely, write 0 now. So then leap becomes, I remember I've solved this equation before. Leap becomes what equals what? True. Okay, so yeah. So yeah, that's, I think that's it. What? Yeah, that's it. So now we have a function that's assumingly, because we cannot test it yet. Let me call it. Let me call it. We can actually test it. We can test it. Let me call it. So say def and leap. So sorry, I'm supposed to just say leap. Sorry. If I say leap, I need to pass a year there. So let me say, is 2000 a leap year? I doubt. I think maybe. Um. Okay, that's another issue. We are not printing the leap year stuff, so it will not return any value. So let's say after every time we equate it, let's print leap. Print inside here. What's it doing like this? Print what's the leap function. Okay. So print leap here, I'll just do Control C and Control V and Control V and Control V. So leap false, cancel this one out. Okay. So no, see me. This one I don't need this one. Alright, so if I call leap and 2000 issued, tell me if 2000 is a leap year. So why is it printing true false? Oh, he ran everything. He ran. So I think 2000 is, so I don't need all. I actually don't need all of them to run. I only need one. So let me remove all these ones. That was a mistake on my end. I don't know why I was doing that. So I only need one of these things to print. So I can print it after everything has run. So if yes, print leap here. So now it should tell us, yeah. So apparently 2000 is a leap year. Let me check 2002. That's when I was born. I was born 2002. Was I born in a leap year? False, I wasn't. So yeah, our leap year calculator works. The function works. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is to find a way to pass, instead of manually putting our input here. Let us pass in the user's input into this place. You get. So we are going to create a variable to store user input. So let's call that variable, let's call it y. Okay, now y is going to be equal to what? An integer input. So int input input prompt, enter maybe your birth year. Okay, enter your birth year, and yes, let me escape to enter the new line. All right. So now if you are building a full-fledged system, we are going to do a lot of error handling, but since we don't have the time to do that, we've already done error handling. So if you want to handle an error here, you put this inside a try. So all you need to do is just come here and do something like this, try, and you put this one inside that try. So you put it inside the try, but we're not handling errors now. So let me just continue. Okay. So y equals this. So what you want to do now is we want to add a bit of space so this code looks neat. So we want to pass this y as an argument to our function. So all we need to do is call the function here, called as leap, and pass y there. Bula shakalaka la la la. We are done. I wanted to say boom shakalaka. So yeah, I think yeah that does it. That does it. So the code will run once and stop. So if I enter 2000, it should tell me true. So if you want this code to run forever, you know what to do. While true loop. So say while and put true here, which is basically roundabout. We have put it inside a roundabout. So Python is like a car. When it gets here, it's just driving around forever. So um okay, yeah. So let me just for the fun of it, since we're already writing the code, let's do try this, and let's just put this one inside here. So except if you enter nonsense, if you want to crash our code, bind and cast you to not work. So print out, stop trying to crash the code. Stop trying to crash the code, bruh. Okay. So yeah. Now now our code is basically crash proof.
I
And
have an error.
I'm seeing it. I just saw it. Okay, yes, I saw it here. All right, thank you. Now run this guy. So Beth here. So I can now call. I can enter like rubbish. Tell me stop trying to crash the code, bruh. So enter your year. Maybe let me say 1990, 1999. That was Nigeria's independence. Is it a leap year? False. Nice. Enter your year 2005. Was it a leap year? False. Ah, which years? Please, can someone help us Google leap years? Let me just ask Google. Hey,
2000,
2000.
2017, 2008.
Okay, let's try 2008.
2017.
Please work, please work, please work,
No,
please work.
2017 is wrong.
Yes, 2008 worked. Okay, which other? How? Let me try.
From just be adding 4,
Just be adding
8,
four.
12, 16,
Okay,
2020,
so
2004.
2012. Okay, 2020. Yeah, okay, so 2024. So next year.
2028,
All right. So our
so on and so
so
forth.
already we have a function that we can use in another code. So this function now is working actually. So even if you want to write, so as you've written this function, you don't need to write it again. Anytime you're calculating leap year, all you need to do is, even if it's for a bigger project that is big for a company, and you want to calculate leap year for maybe for people's birthday or stuff, all you need to do is remember, oh, I've written a function like this before. All you need to do is either you import the launch.py into your, since we have time. Okay, let's even do it. So that importing stuff I didn't want to show you guys. Let me just show it to you people. We'll still treat it later as a main topic, but it's good to chip all these things in so you have them in mind. You know that they exist. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new file here. I'll come here and say new. Let me create a new file, Python file, and let me call it. What should I call it now? Let me just say new file. I don't know what to call it honestly. So let me create a new file. Okay. Inside this new file, I want to import. I want to use that my leap year function. So I say import what? What's the name of? So the leap year is inside this launch. So it's inside this launch.py. So let me say import launch. Right. Okay. Now I can now call that my leap year function. What I need to do is do launch dot. Can you see it? You can actually see it. Leap year. So I can now pass 2002 here. Okay, and if I run it, please work, please work, please work, please work, please work, please work. Ah, did it work? It worked. So let me enter my birthday 2002 false. So yeah, that's how you can call a function, right? Inside the, that's how you can import function. So already I can use it in any way I want now by the name of the file launch, then the name of the function leap. So as you can see, this file only has one function. That's why when I came here and I did launch dot, it only brought out leap for me. It also brought out y is a variable. So but leap is the function there. You can see f in front of it. So like that way we can use it anywhere we please. So let me just run it. Run. So I can actually pass 28 here. but I can also take it from here. So all right, so that's it for today's class. I hope it was interesting enough for you guys. um
Thank you.
I hope you guys had fun learning
Yes,
new
it
stuff.
was. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So please, your assignment is you people, you see the assignment has not changed though. I said build a calculator using functions, add more features like divide, times, what else, figure out how to add things like exponential, raise to power, if you can even do logarithm sef or sine or cos, but no, don't, I think those ones are going to be very difficult to do. Shall build a calculator. We built one in the formal yesterday's class, so you can watch yesterday's video if you want to build a calculator, and then just play around, start playing around with things, even go further than what we've taught you so far, because we thought we taught you so far you can start moving on your own, you can fly. So yeah, I think today was okay. This journey is for the people that have strength too. It's not for the weak. So learning programming is not beans. Thank you guys for showing up. It makes the class worth it. Yeah. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you very
All
much
right.
for your time.
I'm gonna pause the record.